Hey, it's Tree, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my project Harper, or formerly known as Project Annabelle. So, I started drawing Annabelle in 2016 as kind of like an Inktober challenge to make up a story within that month. So I was very much coming up with ideas and aesthetics on the fly for what I wanted for this character, because I didn't really know who this character was at first. All I knew is that I enjoyed vampire movies like Lost Boys, and I watched Fright Night a couple times when I was younger. But I'm aware there's like some controversies with it now, but I'm not really sure what the controversies with it are. But yeah, I would definitely consider myself a big fan of vampire movies and stuff when I was younger. There's also a couple of novels I read as a child that I really enjoyed about vampires. Like, for example, Vampire Kisses. I did enjoy Twilight for a brief period of time before it became popular. Now as an adult, it's just kind of like a comfort movie. I don't know. But it's definitely one of my favorite genres. I also enjoyed like werewolf movies and stuff. If you haven't seen Stephen King's Silver Bullet, I really enjoyed that movie. My uncle got me into like the Underworld series. I also watched Blade a couple times. Not werewolf related, but there's definitely another werewolf movie I'm thinking of, but I can't think of it right now, what it's called. But I was basically cobbling together these concepts that I enjoyed, and one of the problems that I had in 2016 was that I would plan out these characters, but then I'd add too many characters. So in this case, there was Annabelle, and then Annabelle had two vampire dads, but also on top of that, she had like her regular parents that she leaves behind. I never drew them though. And then at the time, she had a girlfriend that was like a skeleton, and then she had a witch friend. And then I started adding her a vampire brother, and then of course there's a werewolf, so the werewolf girl that's her age, and then the werewolf girl's mom. But yeah, I was adding so much stuff that didn't need to be there in the first place. And generally the story was that Annabelle figured out she was a vampire, or she became one night after going to a party, and then she ran away with her vampire dads. And that's the whole story. Eventually, I watched this vampire anime called Shiki, and I was inspired of like how it had like the old-timey vampires, because in that anime they basically die and then become a vampire, and I was very inspired by that. Again, I didn't really talk about vampire animes I was into. Let's list a couple of them off real quickly. I really enjoyed Vampire Night, but I didn't like how it ended. I watched Blood Sea. I watched Blood Plus, I think it is. And then there was this one, Kareen. I really enjoyed the romance in Kareen. But I was definitely at this time taking in those influences and then going overboard, and then at the same time not really doing much with it. So for a while it just kind of went like that. I would draw pictures of Annabelle and not really develop her story any further. For a brief period, if you followed my Tree Sprite channel, she was definitely the mascot of my channel, just because for a while I wasn't comfortable with my identity, depersonalization issues. And then I slowly started to become me again. Apparently, I think around August of 2018, I started being Tree Sprite again. But I definitely noticed in like November of 2018 into 2019 that I wasn't really enjoying drawing Annabelle anymore. I was looking at her design and it just didn't make sense to me anymore. Just the way that I was drawing her hair, it confused my brain and I didn't like it anymore. And so I decided to redesign her. And I don't think I decided to redesign her until October or December of 2019. So it's very much been like kind of a recent thing that I've been drawing her again and coming up with a story for her. These days I kind of want to put her into the Wakefield universe, but I'm still fleshing out a lot of details for her story. Right now I'm still definitely inspired by like the Shiki anime for her. Basically for her universe, I'm thinking that there's like different ways you could become a vampire, like the classical way of dying and then becoming a vampire, or being turned into one, because I noticed that's a very common theme for like vampire animes. Like they're either turned or they're born that way. And then Shiki, I think, is kind of an outlier where it's like based on history, like very loose history of like vampires. And I'd kind of like to explore that a little bit more. I'm definitely also like a sucker for romance animes. Like, it's gotta be done right for me because I'm more into like the shonen side, but I definitely would like to have like some romance elements in that, and like how sometimes relationships are very toxic. And I mean, I guess you could consider like the first draft of the story kind of following those themes, but I kind of want to push into it a bit more of how like there's toxic relationships and there's like good relationships. Another thing that I've been doing lately for like Harper is that I've kind of figured out a style for her, like e-girl TikTok fashion in a way, or like early 2000s punk. And I've kind of been exploring like having a side little AU where she's like in a band with like an elf and then a werewolf. Because I've redesigned the werewolf girl that she was involved with when she was Annabelle. And I do like how she's come out, but I don't think I'll turn it into like an actual story just yet. It's just kind of a fun thing that I'm working on the side. And I'm even having to like edit her story again because I had an idea of where she was going to go with Wakefield, and then I very quickly became stuck. So then I started reworking it again, and now I have a new concept, so hopefully I won't get stuck again. But I think that's a very large part of the writing process, is becoming stuck and then figuring out how to become unstuck. And that's very frustrating. So the very first part of like the Wakefield planning and stuff, her story was basically that like she became a missing person, and then she's found, and then they figure out she's a vampire. And after that's where I got stuck because I couldn't figure out where to take it. And now I'm kind of planning of her being like attacked and kind of like inspired by Tokyo